Hello everyone, my name is Keely. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you've been here before, and welcome to the most exciting vlog I've ever done because this is episode 1 of reading vampire books. If you haven't noticed, my channel name is Vampirekeeley. I got Edward Cullen here with me, and I quite literally look like a vampire. Vampires are some of my favorite things in the entire world. I have been in love with them since I was 13 when I first read Twilight, and no, it's not just a phase. It is my entire lifestyle. I'm obsessed with vampires, and I think it goes back to me being a 13-year-old girl going through trauma and like seeing myself in these vampires because they were described as these beautiful pale creatures, and I have always been so made fun of because of my pale skin. And so seeing somebody described as beautiful as well as being pale, I was like, this is everything to me. I also love the idea of immortality because I'm one of those people that I want to do and I want to see everything. If I could go to school for the rest of my life and just get several different degrees, I would do that. I want to go to every country, and I feel like as a vampire with immortality, you have so much time to do all the things, and for me, I just get so anxious with my life trying to make these decisions because I have such a short life compared to like a vampire. I just love the idea of it, and I love the lore and the culture and everything behind vampires. So this is a series that I've been wanting to start on my channel for so long. I have so many vampire books like in a list on my notes app on my phone, and so in this video I'm going to be reading I think 4 books. I originally said I was going to be reading 3 books for this video in my TBR, but a 4th one came in the mail and I am so excited for it. So I think I'm going to be reading 4 books for this. So let me tell you the 4 books. First we have The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I'm going to be reading this on Kindle Unlimited, and this is extremely hyped right now. I don't know the plot about it, but I do know that it is a fantasy romance vampire story. Now, if you watch my TBR, you know that I prefer my vampires in the real world. So a fantasy element kind of makes me hesitant, but I'm still interested to see if I can enjoy vampires in this setting as well. So that one I'm excited for because I have heard fantastic things about it. But for the other books I have physically, the first one is Blood Countess by Lana Popovich. This is book 1 in the Lady Slayers series. Once again, I just know this has vampires in it. That's literally my biggest buzzword in life. I don't need to know a single thing about the book other than vampires. So as I get into these books, I will tell you what they're about. But yes, Blood Countess. And then the other one I have is King of Battle and Blood by Scarlett St. Clair. This is also book 1, and it is also a fantasy romance series. I have heard people talk about this one. I feel like people enjoy this one, but the sequel they don't like at all. This one was actually gifted to me by my friend Marissa from Genre Garden because she hated this book. So we'll see where I lie. I'm really interested to see if I love it or hate it as well. And then the last one that just came in the mail that was not in my TBR is Mina and the Undead by Amy McCall. And this one has been on my most anticipated since it came out. I'm not kidding. I have an entire list once again on my phone of books that I'm looking forward to, and this is the first one on the list. And I've just been wanting to get to it so bad. But if you try to order this on Amazon, the listing is wrong and it says it's a Sudoku book, and so I've always been hesitant to order it because I don't want to get the wrong copy and have to go through the whole return thing. But I found this one last week on Pango Books and I got it in perfect condition, and I'm so excited. Like, the edges in this are black. How cool is that? And then as well as the chapter headings are really cool. Let me try to find one for you. So here. We have the chapter headings, and they have like the little lantern with bats, and it's just so cool. But this is actually the first book I am picking up for this video. I just couldn't wait because I have been waiting for years to read it. So if you can't tell from my excitement to this intro, this has been something I've been waiting to do for so long. I love vampires. I can't wait to get lost in all the blood-sucking, gory, like love, romance nature of it all. I just love it so much. But yeah, so we're gonna start with Mina and the Undead, and I'll come to you when I'm like 100 pages in. Alright people, I am 103 pages into Mina and the Undead, and this book takes place in 1995 in New Orleans. We follow a girl named Mina. She is 17 years old, I believe, and she has just moved from England to New Orleans to go stay with her sister Libby. So Libby has a few other roommates, so they're all living in this house together, and they work in this like mystery murdery museum thing where they kind of do like a haunted house scaring people type of thing. So Mina is working there and helping Libby out, But one night, Mina discovers a dead body in this museum, and it's another girl that has lived there. And as dead bodies are popping up around the city, her and another boy realize that these murders are reenactments or recreations of famous New Orleans stories. So you have like the Axeman, you have vampires, and you have various other stories because New Orleans is very famous for their myths and legends, and these murders are occurring again, and so they're trying to figure out what's going on. So I am someone that is not obsessed with the New Orleans setting. I have read The Beautiful by Renee Audier, and that is set in New Orleans, and everyone was obsessed, and I hated it. But this makes me want to visit New Orleans. Like, I hate New Orleans. I've been there before. It's dirty, it's grimy, it's gross, but I am like starting to research stuff that I want to go see there and like planning a trip just because of this book. Like, okay. Also the fact that it's set in 1995, that's the year I was born, so icons and legends only, truly. I really like Mina as a character and how all of these characters are obsessed with horror and spooky and monsters, and I just love it so much because they're all like having horror movie nights or talking about serial killers or talking about vampires. Like, it's all normal stuff, and that is like me. That's me. Like, I love it so much because I'm just like, all these places they're talking about, I want to go. Like, they go in like the first few chapters to a cemetery. I love cemeteries. Every time we travel somewhere and we pass by a cemetery, we have to go in because I love cemeteries. And so Mina and some of the other characters went, and I was just like, I need to go to that cemetery now. And like, they were talking about the different legends about the different tombs and stuff, and I was like, this is me. So I am having a great time reading this. I am flying through it. This is also very short. It's like a little less than 300 pages. I think it's 294. So I'm 100 pages in and I am flying through it. I'm having a great time. There's a few other things I want to get done today, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to finish this, but I'm feeling so many great things about this. This is such a great one to start out with, especially because I've been looking forward to it for so long that I'm just like obsessed. Also, this cover, it's supposed to be like an old kind of VHS tape, and I just love it. I love it so much so far. So hopefully the rest of it goes just as well, but I will let you know probably when I'm halfway. I think halfway is like 140 something pages. So maybe when I'm halfway, I'll come back and update you, and hopefully I'm just as much in love as I am right now. Okay, I'm now halfway through Mina and the Undead. I'm on page 147, and I am still loving it so, so much. So because this book is set in the 90s, we are getting some amazing pop culture references, such as like the Lost Boys, the Dracula movies. We got the Crow in here. So there's just like some great references to iconic horror and vampire things that I really, really love. So over this book, there are also a few relationships in here. There's one that's already established and then one that we're seeing like progress throughout the book, and I love them so, so much. So this book is YA and it reads YA, so if you're not a fan of that, I don't know how much you would like it, but I love young adult books so much. It is my favorite age range to read from. I'm 27, but I will never grow out of it. I relate so much more to YA than I do to an adult, which I don't know what that says about me, but I love it. And so I love how this one reads. I just love this spooky atmosphere, but I also love how these characters, they're trying to investigate these murders, but they're not being dumb about it. They are going to the police with what they find, so that's interesting too, because a lot of times we'll see characters being dumb about things, but it's like they're trying to figure out the mystery while also going to the police for help. So I love it so much. I love the characters. I don't know how much I'm going to read today, if I'm going to finish or not. I kind of feel like doing a puzzle right now, so I might put this down for a little bit and pick it up later, but we'll see, and you will figure out in my next update. But yeah, see you when I finish this. My little squishmallow fell. You're balanced on various squishmallows right now. So I just finished Mina and the Undead, and I'm giving this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed it, but I feel like the second half wasn't as strong as the first half for me, and the ending just wasn't satisfying for me, and so that's why I'm giving it 4 stars instead of 5. But I still really recommend this, and I had a great time with it. I love all the characters so much, and I saw so much of myself in Mina, and so I loved following her. I thought she was a great character. She was into so many of the things that I'm into, and I just can't forget about that scene where she goes to the cemetery, because that was everything to me, and I just want to go to New Orleans now and visit all these cemeteries. Also, like I said before, this book really makes me want to visit New Orleans again, and I hate New Orleans, so that's an A+ for this book if it can make me want to travel to a place and see like other things that I haven't seen yet. But yes, 4 stars. I'm excited to see where the second one goes because I'm curious because of the way this one ended. Some of the things that happen with certain characters in here, not happy with how like that went or the direction of that story. So we'll see what happens. But yes, 4 stars for that one. And also, let me show you, because I haven't shown you yet, the bookmark that I'm using during this video. I also use it all the time. It's like my go-to bookmark. But it is this vampire bookmark. We have a vampire girl there and like, blonde hair? Is that me? I think so. So I think my next book I'm going to pick up is The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. It is almost noon right now, and I will probably start it later today. There's a track meet on TV at 1 that I'm going to watch. I'm going to go make some food, so I'll probably start it later today. And you know, I'm kind of nervous about this one. I've heard nothing but fantastic things about it, but it is fantasy romance. And fantasy is not my genre. Like I have said multiple times, I prefer my vampires in the real world, like Mina and the Undead is in the real world. So we'll see. I also know this book, I think it's like over 500 pages, so it's kind of long. So, but I think it'll read quickly. We'll see. I am nervous, but I feel like I'm gonna love it. I just really hope I do love it. And if I do, I might throw the sequel in here as well. I'm just gonna keep throwing vampire books in here. We'll see what happens. Hello everybody, I have an update on The Serpent and the Wings of Night. I am 22% of the way through, so that means I'm on page 122. And I have a few thoughts, a few feelings. First of all, these vampires have wings. Not my favorite thing, but you know, it is what it is. It's different. It's not the worst. It's better than having like a tail. Looking at you, Carden. But is that his name from The Cruel Prince? I don't know. Anyway, yes, they have wings. But let me try to explain this book to you. And first of all, I'm not a fantasy girly, so I don't really know how to explain this plot to you. So we live in this world, and we follow a girl named Aurea. And when she was little, and she's human, okay? Get that. Aurea is human. And when she was little, she was found like in this rubble of a house, like by herself. As a child, she was found by like the vampire House of Night king person. He's like the highest up, the most powerful vampire there is. I really don't understand the world. There's like the House of Night, the House of Shadow, and the House of Blood, I think, but I don't know anything about them. I don't know what it means. There's also some other words thrown in there that I don't know if they're cities, kingdoms, the world. I have no idea. So the guy that found her is Vincent. Such a random name. Vincent. And he is like her father. Now he's her adopted father, the only person that really cares and protects for her. So massive, powerful vampire. She's a human girl living in this vampire world, so everybody wants to kill her. She smells delicious. Everybody wants her blood, but Vincent is all powerful. Nobody's gonna get past him. So there's this competition that's happening, and I believe there's 4 trials, if I'm correct. There's 4 different trials, and it takes place over the course of like 4 months. So they're all living in this palace, and the people that are in this competition, it's like pretty much they're all vampires except for Aurea, and she's like the one human. And I think at the end of this competition, it's like life or death. So there's only one like survivor. At the end of the competition, they get a wish from the goddess, and so Aurea wants to win so she can wish to be as powerful as Vincent, so that Vincent will have like a powerful ally and nobody can ever kill him. I think that's where we're headed. So 122 pages in, we just completed the first trial, and I cannot focus in a fantasy world because all of these random made-up terms that I can't pronounce are in the story, and I just can't focus when it's fantasy because I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, and it's just so difficult to learn. And so a lot of the times I'm just like vibing because I'm like, I have no idea where we are, I have no idea what's going on or who these people are, because there's also like 2 different types of vampires, but we haven't been told like anything other than like there's a difference in their wings, but like I can't keep track of who's who, what's what. There's also going to be like a romance plotline in here, and we've met him. His name is Rain, and I believe he's like the opposite vampire of Vincent, so they're supposed to be like mortal enemies, but Aurea's going to be like falling in love with him, and so that's going to be an issue. So I don't really know. It's just I can't focus on it. That's my main issue right now, is every time I'm reading it, I feel like I have to reread so many passages because I'm like, wait, that was important, I need to go back. But I just am having trouble getting sucked in. I'm hoping now that we're in the trials that I'll get really sucked in. But I know that it ultimately comes down to that this is a fantasy world and I'm not a fantasy girl. And so if you like fantasy, that's not going to be an issue. But for me, who doesn't really like fantasy, it is an issue, you know? but I'm loving my vampires. They are also very brutal vampires. They are bloodthirsty, and I really, really like that, but they're also like attractive. So like my two favorite things. But yeah, as of right now, just like about it, but I know it's just because it's not set in the real world, which I would prefer. It'd be so cool if we had a vampire competition in the real world. Yes, please, somebody write that, like get on it. But yeah, I guess I'll update you when I'm halfway through, probably tomorrow. It's like 4:30, we're about to go eat dinner, and I don't feel like reading anymore. That's another thing with this book, I just don't feel like picking it up, so not great on my part, but I'll read more tomorrow and I'll update you then. Alright, I am now at the 50% mark in The Serpent and the Wings of Night, and I think my brain is broken because reading this book, I'll be reading the words and thinking about several different things. Like I cannot retain anything. I'll read all the sentences and I have no idea where they go because they don't go into this brain. I don't know where they are, but they are not stored here. The vampires in this world are not for me. I do not like how the vampires are done, which, like, I'm a vampire girly, so I'm really picky, I guess, about my vampires. Wings. No, I don't think vampires should fly. That is not a thing. Vampires should not be flying. Also, the vampires in here have magic abilities, which I don't like. I like when vampires have skills that are enhanced from their human lives, where like some people have visions or super strength, things like that. But these ones are like throwing fireballs, and that's just not it. I just don't like the way the vampires are done in here. The fantasy setting also, it's just not fleshed out. I feel like there's no world building because once again, the different types of vampires, I have no idea anything about them. The different types of like kingdoms or houses or whatever they are, I don't even know exactly what the House of Night is because it doesn't tell you. And the world, the kingdom, I couldn't tell you. Don't know anything about it. And maybe it's just like my little pea brain just cannot like take anything in, but I have no idea what this world is about or what's going on. The vampires, just not it. It just doesn't feel vampiric enough for me. Also, the characters feel incredibly one-dimensional to me. They feel very flat, so I don't really care about them. I often find myself rolling my eyes at them, which is not a good thing. This book is making me also feel really slumpy. I was in such a reading mood the last few weeks, but now I like don't want to read and I'm having to force myself to pick it up. I'm not gonna DNF because I do want to know what everyone's talking about and I should love it because vampires, but I told you, vampires should be in the real world, not in a fantasy setting, and maybe that's just because I'm not a fantasy girl and I just prefer things done in the real world. But like, if you catch me picking up more fantasy books in the future, just like, don't say anything because I'm gonna keep reading them. I'm gonna keep trying them because there are like the hidden gems every so often where I'm like, yes, I love fantasy. But this should be like the perfect excuse for me to love fantasy because vampires, but these vampires just are not good. Oh, that's so bad. But yeah, so I'm gonna try to read more today. And hopefully I don't hate it. At this point, I feel like I'm this close to being like a hate read. Like, that's how bad it is. I just don't care. I'm waiting for the spicy scene because I've heard that it's like a long spicy scene and I'm like, maybe that'll redeem the story and I'll actually care about the characters. But other than that, this is just not for me. Alright, it's been a few days since I've updated you, but I have since finished The Serpent and the Wings of Night. And listen, I don't understand why I always hate popular books. Like, I don't get it. Recently, this has been like a new revelation for me. I have been hating all these books that people are absolutely obsessed with. And this book, unfortunately, was no exception. I gave The Serpent and the Wings of Night 2 stars. And let me just read to you what I put on Goodreads. I said something about vampires and a deadly competition. What could go wrong? Well, let me tell you. First of all, I'm huge into vampires and these ones just did not do it for me. I don't like vampires with wings. And I don't like vampires with magical abilities. And you already know I also prefer my vampires in the real world setting. Second, I feel like there was no world building at all. At the end of this book, there is a glossary with all the terms and everything you need to know, but I feel like a glossary is not a good excuse for world building, especially if it's at the end of the ebook that I was reading. Your world building should not just be in a set of terms, it should be within the book itself, and I just felt like it was not in the book at all. Also, like I talked about, I kept reading and I was just not retaining any information because I just could not pay attention. It was not gripping me in the slightest. Third, I didn't care for the characters. They felt really flat to me, so I didn't care about their relationship. It felt really boring to me, and I was just rolling my eyes several times. And fourth, the deadly competition was so boring. The different trials that they went through were so fast-paced, and I just felt like it was just so quick that we weren't really in it. Kind of like in the Hunger Games, you're in it the entire book. This one, we would be in it for like 20 seconds and then we'd be back out. And every time they would leave a trial, they would be back in the palace and everything would feel kind of normal again. And you'd have to remind yourself, oh yeah, we're in a deadly competition, but it didn't really feel like it. So ultimately, I really did not like this book. I gave it 2 stars. I don't see why everybody loves it so much. But if you want to read it, I am like the only person on the planet Earth that hates this book. So I guess go ahead and give it a try. But that's that. So as for the next book I want to read, I was going to pick up Blood Countess, but as I was reading more into this, I don't think that it actually deals with vampires. So this story seems like it is a retelling of a famous story about the Countess Dracula, who was actually a serial killer. So I'm not going to be reading this for this video. I do want to still read it this month because serial killer? Based on a female serial killer? I'm there, I'm ready, but I'm not going to read it for this. So the next book I'm going to read actually came in from my library, and that is The House of Hunger by, I believe, Alexis Henderson. Now I think that this is also like a vampire story with a twist, because I don't know if they're actually vampires or they're blood drinkers or what's happening, but I know that it is a horror book. I think it's young adult, but I'm not quite sure, but I've heard really good things about this book and this author. Alright, so that is the next book I'm going to pick up, so I will probably let you know when I'm like 100 pages into it or so. We will see, but until then, see you later. Alright, I have some updates and some revelations for you that I have come to realize. I am now 50% of the way through House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson. This is a rather short book, so I'm reading it pretty quickly, and I haven't had time to update you before 50%. So here we are at 50%, and this book follows a girl named Marion. She is 20 years old, and this is set in like an earlier time period. It doesn't specifically say when, but this is like the olden days, and Marion lives with her brother, who is quite terrible. Their parents have died, and so they live together. They're very poor. They live in the slums. She doesn't have much going for her, and she is a housemaid to this awful lady. One day she's reading the newspaper and she sees an ad in the newspaper for a blood maid for the north. Now, she lives in the south, and in the north is where all of the houses of the nobles and the lords reside. So Marion decides that her only way to get out and survive and live a lavish lifestyle is to become a blood maid. Now, a blood maid are these people that live in these houses, and they provide blood for people in whichever way that is that they want. So that's all I'm gonna say. That's all I really know, pretty much. Even at 50%, they just give blood and they live well off. So Marion is living in the House of Hunger with the lady Elizabeth, and she is becoming more and more intrigued by Elizabeth, and Marion's blood tastes so good apparently, so everyone's like really into Marion. But I have realized Elizabeth Bathory in House of Hunger is the same person in Blood Countess. That is based on a real person, and I told you she is a serial killer from like the 1800s, no, maybe even earlier, 1600s, I'll look it up. But it's the same person, so I think after House of Hunger, I'm gonna pick this up because they seem like they're the same story, because this is about a girl named Anna who's 16, and she begins working as a maid for Countess Elizabeth Bathory, and Marion is working as a blood maid for Elizabeth Bathory, so I'm interested to see where these stories go. So it's not like a straight up vampire story, but there are like vampiric tendencies in this because they are drinking blood and sometimes straight from the vein. So it's very similar. So let me see my phone. When I looked up Elizabeth Bathory, it says she lived from 1560 to 1614. So in the 1600s, she was accused of torturing and killing hundreds of girls and women between 1590 and 1610. Her and her servants were put on trial and convicted, and it says the legends described her with vampiric tendencies, such as the tale that she bathed in the blood of virgins to retain her youth. And some people also believe she is the inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula, so very vampiric in nature. So after I finish House of Hunger, I'm definitely going to read Blood Countess. I said I wasn't going to because I didn't think it was super vampire-y, but now this is like the vampire. Like, you have Dracula, but then ahead of that, you have Elizabeth Bathory. Okay, so far in House of Hunger, my feelings towards it, it's fine, it's okay, it's really, really slow, but I'm enjoying it. I'm wanting to see where it goes because this blood maid business is a little weird and I don't quite understand it, so I want to see what happens and how it gets hopefully more horrifying, but it's definitely a very slow read, but it's a short book, so it doesn't feel overly slow, so we'll see, but I'll probably see you next time when I am finished with it since I'm already halfway through. Alright, so I finished House of Hunger yesterday, and honestly, I really don't know how to talk about this because I really don't have a whole lot of feelings about it. I didn't like it, but I also didn't hate it. I just feel kind of mediocre about it, I guess. I will say the ending got really vampiric and I loved that turn that it took, but it was a little too late and the action at the end was a little too fast paced, but overall I just feel kind of about it. I probably won't remember it in the long run, so I'm just gonna give it 3 stars and that's that. Next I'm going to read Blood Countess because it sounds almost identical to House of Hunger, so I really want to see how they line up with each other. But I'm about to leave for Austin to go see the NCAA track and field championships, so I'm not going to be home this weekend, so I don't know how much reading I'll get done, but I'll update you when I've read something, maybe when I'm like 100 pages in or halfway, we'll see. Alright, I am 44 pages into Blood Countess, and unfortunately I'm going to DNF this one. So it is so intriguing to me because I want to know how it plays out, but I just cannot get past the writing. The writing is just not working for me. I almost feel like I'm reading a classic and it feels like kind of a chore to get through, so I just don't want to get slumpy just because of the writing of this book. But it does follow this girl named Anna, and Anna is a healer. She learned that from her mother, and so one day Anna heals somebody that's very important to the Countess, and so the Countess like takes big notice of Anna and actually asks her to come be her chambermaid, and that's as far as I got. But I know she's gonna go into this estate and be the chambermaid, and I think they might fall in love, but there's also some darkness going on because people keep going missing from the estate because of the Countess. So it sounds exactly like House of Hunger, kind of like what I was talking about already, but the writing, I just can't get past it. It just makes me feel like it is taking me forever to read this book, and it's less than 300 pages and I just like am slugging through it, so I'm gonna put it down, DNFing it. So that means I only have one more book to read for this vlog, and that is King of Battle and Blood. So I'm not gonna pick it up today because I'm currently reading like a thriller in the meantime that I already picked up because I DNF'd the Blood Countess, so I picked up something on my Kindle. So when I start King of Battle and Blood and I get like 100 pages in or so, I will let you know. Alright, I have to update you because I started King of Battle and Blood by Scarlett St. Clair last night. Liv from Liv's Library had me on her Patreon reading sprints and I felt so honored. She asked me and it was so much fun to be a part of that and talk with everyone. And I started King of Battle and Blood on sprints and I got 100 pages in last night. And let me tell you, I'm obsessed. I am obsessed. Who saw that coming? Because I am really shocked because this is fantasy romance and we all saw how that went down last time. But first, let me tell you what this is about. I'm really bad at trying to explain fantasy synopsis, but honestly this one doesn't feel like too heavy fantasy for me. But let me start. The main character, once again, she has a name I can't pronounce. Why does fantasy always do that? But I'm gonna pronounce it Isolde. So Isolde is 26 years old and she is the princess of the kingdom of Lara and her dad is the king. First of all, the father-daughter relationship in this is really sweet and I really like how that's done. Like, he actually seems like a good father. So on the other side of the kingdom is the vampires. We have the Blood King, who is Adrian, and they are these powerful vampires, and they are slowly taking over all the kingdoms. I believe there's like 9. They're called the 9 houses, so they're slowly taking over all the kingdoms. So Isolde's father is like, in order to save my people, we are gonna make this truce, and the Vampire King can rule our kingdom now. So the Vampire King comes over to Lara, and they're about to start this truce, and he sees Isolde, and he's like, my one condition is I'm gonna marry your daughter. That is like, as soon as he sees her, he's like, yep, I'm gonna marry her. We're gonna be married. It's gonna be a thing. It's happening. You can't stop it. So Isolde is like struggling with, okay, I have to marry this man, but do I kill him? He's like this all-powerful being. But the catch is, if she kills him, Adrian was like, I will turn you into the thing you hate most, which is the undead. So let me tell you, this book has so much tension. It like jumps off the page at you. I don't think I've ever read a book where like right off the bat there's just this much tension, and it is spicy. Let me tell you, it is so spicy, and I just stopped last night after the first like truly spicy scene, and it's really good. It was really good. But From the very first meeting of Isolde and Adrian, I felt the chemistry, I felt the connection, and I absolutely love it. The vampires in here, love the vampires. So the backstory is like Adrian made one of the goddesses mad, and so she turned him into like a vampire, something like that. And so now there's like vampires over the world, but there's also like these different creatures that stem from vampires, and one of them seems like a zombie creature. And I'm obsessed with zombies as well. We've only seen one like once. Isolde like came across one, but I'm hoping we see more of them. But we're also finding out there's like other creatures as well. But I love the connection, I love the chemistry, and I am just so surprised by how obsessed I am with this. This was sent to me by my friend Marissa from Genre Garden, and she sent it to me because she hated this book. So I need to text her and be like, I'm 100 pages in, and I'm obsessed. So I have good feelings about this one, but I don't want to jinx it. I still have like 300, maybe, 300 pages left, something like that. So I'm hoping it stays great and amazing, but I have work all day today, so I'm hoping I can read more when I get back, but I'm not sure. But this weekend, I cannot wait to sit down and just binge through it. I've been feeling so slumpy since The Serpent and the Wings of Night, but this book is like reigniting my love, and it's filling every vampire thing that I want, so I cannot wait to read more. Alright, I am now halfway through King of Battle and Blood, and I am still loving it. So we've also been on this kind of like trip across the country, because obviously we started in the Kingdom of Lara, where Isolde is from, and then now we are going to where Adrian lives, in Rebecca. I think that's how I'm pronouncing it anyway. So we're going to his kingdom, and so we have finally arrived, but it was cool to go on that trip, and there has been so much death, which I really enjoy seeing. I also just love seeing the relationship and marriage between Adrian and Isolde, and how that's working and how it's progressing, and how maybe it'll be like a hate to love situation. I mean, probably it's fantasy romance, but I'm really enjoying it. What I didn't tell you the other day on sprints when I started this, I could not stop giggling. Like, I was literally giggling, kicking my feet in the air, twirling my hair, like that type of mood, and I just did not expect that from this book. I literally remember we came back from a sprint at one point and I was giggling, and Liv was like, what? Why are you laughing? And I was like, I can't stop giggling just at Adrian and Isolde. Like, it literally had me just like so excited and so happy. But yes, halfway through, and I am still loving it, which is a great sign. So I'll probably come back to you when I have finished, and hopefully it's a 5-star book, but I don't know. I literally texted my friend Marissa yesterday and I was like, I'm so sorry, I'm obsessed. And she was like, happy for you, but I hated it. But yeah, so hopefully I continue to love it, and I will let you know. Alright everyone, I finished King of Battle and Blood, and I gave this book 5 stars. Completely obsessed, and the way the vampires are done in here is one of my favorite ways. It's like a classic way that I just really love. I also love me a good possessive hero, specifically when it is vampires, and Adrian was definitely a possessive hero. But on both sides, Adrian and Isolde were both very like jealous people, and I love jealousy. That is one of my favorite things in books. But yes, 5 stars. There was a reveal in here at the end that I'm not completely sold on, but I'm just gonna go with it, honestly, because I enjoyed myself so much with this. I like didn't even care that I wasn't on board for the reveal, because I was just like, you know what, whatever you tell me, okay, it's fine. I really love Adrian as a hero in here, but also Isolde as the heroine. She's kind of an anti-hero. I don't particularly like her, but I don't think I dislike her either. There are just some choices that she makes and her personality that aren't my type of person, but for some reason in this book it works in here. But I've seen her character in other books before that I absolutely hated, so it's interesting that it works in this world for me. I really liked how the world building was and the history behind the world, and I can't wait to see more of that in book 2. I've heard negative things about book 2, but I'm hoping that I love it. As we've seen, especially in this video, I have very unpopular opinions, and my opinion is often opposite of the popular opinion, so maybe I'll like the sequel. But that is the last book for this vampire vlog, so let's run down everything I read if I can remember. So Mina and the Undead, really enjoyed that one. That one was 4 stars. And then I read, I believe it was The Serpent and the Wings of Night, and as time goes on, the greater my hatred for that book grows, especially after reading this. This book is so much better than The Serpent and the Wings of Night. I honestly don't know what everyone else is reading. I don't understand why everyone loves it so much, because a lot of times when I'm reading books, I'm like, oh, I can kind of see why people love that one. That book literally makes zero sense to me. Why do people love that one when this is so much better? I will say, I haven't said it yet, this book is extremely spicy and very, very like fast burn. There is no slow burn in sight with this. You see things and feel things very quickly in this book, which I don't mind, because I also, like with spice, I need a connection, and I felt like right off the bat Adrian and Isolde had that connection. I really, really felt it and I could see it, whereas in The Serpent and the Wings of Night, no connection, did not care. That book is so bad. Like, I'm just gonna say it. Usually I'm like, it's not a bad book. No, that book is bad. I don't like it. So 2 stars for that one. It's probably gonna make my worst books of the year, honestly. And then House of Hunger. That one was just okay. I give that one 3 stars. I really don't have anything bad to say about it, but I also don't have anything great to say about it either. And then I DNF The Blood Countess, and then of course King of Battle Blood, the star of the show, 5 stars. So it is actually June 18th, and I haven't had a 5-star book that wasn't a reread since the end of April. So King of Battle Blood really saved me, really pulled me out of that 5-star slump. But yeah, that is it for this video. I have a whole spreadsheet going of different vampire books that I want to read and that I'm interested in. Well, I guess I'm interested in any vampire book. Anytime someone says the word vampire, I'm already there. So yeah, those are all the books that I read for this video. Let me know if you've read any of these and enjoyed them. Serpent and the Wings and I don't understand, but that is it for this video. If you've made it this far, go ahead and of course leave the vampire emoji, but that is it. Thank you so much for watching. As always, all my social media links will be down below, and I will see you next time. Bye!